public hearing minutes that Marissa sent to us last week. And then also at the bottom, update the next meeting to May 28th. And with those amendments, I'll entertain an approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Mokel. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Ms. Whitehead. Yes. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, so we'll start with, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the February 16th council meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Bill.
I've got a question first.
Okay.
Do we need to remove these from the table before we just?
Oh, were these tabled?
Yes.
Yes. If I'm removing them from the table, do I need to have a vote for that?
It's just a motion, isn't it? Motion and a second. Vote. Motion to remove them from the table.
Okay.
Second.
A motion by Dan, second by Bill. Roll call.
Ms. Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mokel. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Mr. Whitehead. Yes. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. Now, motion for approval.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Bill. Roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Mokel. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Mr. Whitehead. Yes. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, moving on to the February 27th public hearing minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Mokel. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Mr. Whitehead. Yes. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. And on to the approval of the March 26th council meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Mokel. Yes. Mr. Webb. Yes. Whitehead. Yes. Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on, we have a memorial resolution by State Senator Scott Alexander.
Good morning, Council. Thank you, Madam President, members of the Council. Here today to do a memorial resolution for, we know her as Jane LASATER. And I've asked Melanie, yeah, thanks, Melanie. Melanie to come up with me today, and Jane meant a lot to all of us, and it was my honor to be able to run a resolution through the Indiana State Senate with the House concurring. I will present the resolution to you today. This is Indiana General Assembly State Concurrent Resolution number 15, a concurrent resolution memorializing Martha Jane LASATER. Martha Jane LASATER was born January 2nd, 1940 in Muncie, Indiana, to Gerald and Louise Wingate, and graduated from DeSoto High School in 1958. After graduation, Jane embarked on a career in public service in Delaware County spanning more than 40 years, starting at Township Trustee, followed by 6 years of service as the County Treasurer, 8 years as the County Auditor, 8 years as the County Recorder, and 9 years as a County Councilwoman. Jane was also an exemplar of Indiana agricultural heritage, living her life on the family farm, which received the Hoosier Homestead Centennial Award in 2009 to commemorate 100 years of family ownership. Jane lived out her rural values through the support of youth and 4-H programs, years of volunteer work at the Delaware County Fair, and her longtime service as a voting member of the Delaware County Fair Board. During her life, Jane's commitment to public service was recognized by all those around her, from Governor Robert Orr naming her a Sagamore of the Wabash, the highest honor bestowed upon a citizen in 1988, to the Delaware County Board of Commissioners dedicating the Delaware County Fairgrounds Grandstand as Jane LASATER Memorial Grandstand in 2023. Jane prided herself on improving government for the benefit of the people, as evidenced by her motto, "People before politics." Jane leaves behind a legacy of public service, deserving the highest honor and praise. Therefore, be it resolved by the State of Indiana General Assembly of the State of Indiana, the House of Representatives, the Senate concur, the Senate of Indiana, the State the House of Representatives concurring that the General Assembly memorializes the life and legacy of Martha Jane Lassiter. The Secretary of State hereby direct this transmit these copies of this resolution to the family of Martha Jane Lassiter. And I will do that right now. And I will pass one of these copies on to you. Thank you. And I also have copies for council, and I just thought this was the appropriate venue to do this since Jane finished her life of service right here on County Council. Thank you. There's probably nowhere we miss her more than the Delaware County.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Yes, we definitely all miss Jane, that's for sure. And with that, we'll move over to our transfer and appropriation agenda.
Starting with transfers. Courts, 138. A, 106, Assistant Court Reporter, negative 1,202.47. C, 120, Assistant Court Reporter, Bailiff, negative 836.50. D, 120, Assistant Court Reporter and Bailiff, negative 1,117.55. B, 131, Court Reporter, negative 1,287. E, 147, Probation Support Staff, negative 2,336. E, 160, Probation Officer, negative 14,603.39. A, 161, Probation Officer, positive 152.31. 211, Office Supplies, positive 218.60. 317, Courtroom Maintenance, positive 12,040. 441, Office Equipment, positive 8,972. Total transfer 0.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Do we have any questions on this one? I'm assuming we do.
Oh, I definitely do.
Oh, imagine
Oh, and
that.
Ryan, before you get started real quick, I do want to share that, Finance Committee, Matt sent out his notes last week on this and, that everything was favorable with the Finance Committee. Okay, go ahead, Ryan, sorry.
Thank you for referencing the notes. That's actually where my questions
Came from.
come from, yes. So when I was reading Matt's notes, looks like some of, let me just let you explain it for the record. Can you explain what this is for, before I
Sure, Ryan.
go with my questions?
Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. First of all, the 152.31, which I didn't really explain in the finance meeting for the probation officer. When I did budgets last year, I had reversed the pay. So in the middle of the year, this person got a pay raise for her annual salary raise. And I had reversed my numbers, so I shorted her in her pay line. So I have to make that square. So that's that probation officer. All the other requests, the courtroom maintenance, that $12,000.40. We have had a lot of complaints from jurors that they cannot see the monitors in the courtrooms. And so we had our recording equipment people come in and get a quote for moving all the monitors from the wall that is across to the adjacent wall. So right now, currently, if you're a juror, you're sitting here, there's a monitor behind the jury. That doesn't do them any good. And there's a monitor across from them. That's the one they look at when evidence is being presented. They're saying they can't see that. It's too far across the room. So we've asked to move all the monitors adjacent to them so they can see the monitor. In doing that, we also asked them to move what we call our Clear One units, which has to do with the Zoom hearings. Because of all the issues we have with our equipment, which I believe goes back to the electricity issues out there, we are constantly having to reboot equipment. The only way to reboot that equipment is if I have to get up and stand on the half wall that is for the jury. So I'm constantly having to climb up, which is not good on the construction of that. It's making those half wall's unstable. I have to get up to unplug it, reboot and all of that. So I've asked them to move all of those down to more of a level about here where I can reach them. They're moving those, they're moving the monitors, and then Steve Foster has volunteered to do all the electrical outlet move. So there's an electrical outlet on the wall, he just has to move it up for me. So that's not gonna cost us anything. So they gave me a quote of the most it would cost them to do all the courtrooms of $12,000, excuse me, $12,040. So it may not cost that much, but they had to give me the most it would cost. And that is lodging them because they have to stay at a hotel, coming in and doing all the work and paying their guys to come in and do all that. The other part of the equipment, the office equipment, which is the 8972, is last year I told you I needed to replace a few more copiers. And so I went and looked at the rest of my copiers. I have 5 left. Out of those 5, I have to replace 3 more and then we're good. They're giving me the same price as they did last year, which is $29.90.59 per copier. These are $12,000 copiers that they're giving us at that price. Are they refurbished? Yes, they are low copies on those copiers. And there is one copier up for grabs. They have an extra one with low copies on it for that same price. If anybody has a need in their department for a copier, it is black and white. Carrie was gonna grab it, but she needs color. For that same price, they will give it to you for the $29.90. So that's the $89.71.
So how often would you say you have to climb up on the wall to
Once a
reboot?
week.
Okay.
I have had so much equipment fail at the Justice Center that I'm getting ready to go speak to the commissioners about this issue. I have had to replace USB units, which are backup battery units, because I have backup battery in all my equipment. I've had to replace those already. I've had so much equipment fail that I'm afraid that BIS is gonna tell me that they're not gonna honor our contract anymore.
Well,
It has become it has been an issue. I am so over dealing with my equipment. That is not happening in other counties. I have asked for a letter for that fact that this doesn't happen in other counties. But I have replaced so many failed pieces in the last 3 years that I get so frustrated because every day I'm dealing with at least once a week. They were there 1 week, got everything ready, went to every courtroom, squared everything away, and the following Monday, equipment failed.
well, you're not gonna hear any disagreement from me over frustration shared
Mhm.
over constantly pumping money into a building that was supposed to be move-in ready.
I mean, I know.
Trust me, I'm with you on the frustrations with that. That's a separate thing. That's a whole nother argument for a whole nother day, but with that being said, it's difficult to keep putting equipment in a structure that keeps failing and we haven't fixed what's causing it to fail. You know, in manufacturing, if you put a corrective action in place, you can prevent that from happening ever again. And I'm not hearing any
But I
corrective
mean, all the
actions.
stuff that I'm asking for today is literally, need to move this so that people can see what they need to
Let
see.
me get to this part. Okay, so we got about $20,000 here
Mhm,
to move some TVs closer,
mhm,
to get some copiers, and to help you reach a switch to reset something.
mhm.
My concern is, first we'll go over the copiers. We're only the 4th month in the year.
Mhm.
You guys requested copiers in the budget session and we denied the request. In the budget request, there was a request for copiers.
I didn't
Right.
request it in the budget. I took it out of my I took it out of my budget last year.
Just about every department requested copiers. You're saying your department did
No,
not
I took
request
it out of
no
my own
copies.
budget last year,
Fair enough, I'll give you that one.
as I'm
So I
trying to
like
do
the
again.
price, I like the price of $2,900. It's just one of those things, again, that I wish it was budgeted for. But getting back to what we normally say, find the money in your budget. You've done that, but this is the concern that I have. We'll be in here in September, and I'm not singling you out, I'm saying this just because you're the one up there. Department heads will come in and stand at that podium. We'll make a recommendation of can we phase out a position, an unfilled position, and everyone at that podium will sit there and tell us there's absolutely no way we can go without another person. We cannot operate if we lose that person. And what happens is the year starts, if that position doesn't get filled, that department does operate without that person and operates just well.
So
Let me
you're
finish.
wanting,
Let me finish. And then a few months later, what that line item that was budgeted for that person becomes a piggy bank slush fund for wish list items.
that's not what happened here, Ryan.
Let me finish.
that is not what happened here. You're assuming that that's what happened. What happened here is I had a probation officer that resigned after a council
Okay, so
hearing.
what's
The-
the problem with letting the money revert back to the general fund?
Because I need it for these things, so why
Okay.
can't I use that out of my budget?
Because if we were using real life world, if I'm in my living room and I can't see my TV, I don't spend $12,000 to pull it closer. I get a cart when we were all in school, right?
So you're
They will-
asking me to bring
Let
a
me
car
finish.
in at
Let me
jury
finish.
trial?
Let me finish, please. What I'm asking you to do, these TVs weigh 25, 30 pounds. A jury trial, it isn't every single day, I'm assuming, maybe there's one or two. Why couldn't that be wheeled out right in front of the jury box for $25 versus $12,000? This is taxpayer money,
It's-
$12,000.
It's not just wheeling a TV out. You have
and
all
then
the,
the
you have all the electronics that goes with it.
They did it in my sixth grade class very easily.
Yeah, and-
Every Friday we watched
And I
the
will
movie.
tell you, we have done that. We've used the prosecutor's wheel TV. They have a TV on wheels. And people have commented on that. Why do we have all this equipment in this courtroom and it doesn't even work? So do you see where I'm coming from? It's
see where you're
embarrassing
coming
that we
from.
have equipment that we can't use.
Again, but that goes back to putting money into something that we haven't solved the problem that's causing it to not be able to be used.
And that's not my
So,
fault.
I'm not saying it is, but we can't keep putting 10,000, 12,000 for stuff. Like, for example, the switch you talked about, I can understand the frustration. Why wouldn't we just use a 6-foot step ladder instead of a wall? That's easy. I know Steve's got a step ladder.
Yeah, and I don't have time to go down to maintenance, grab a step ladder every time I have to reboot this. Instead, I have to go in, get it going and working for court.
I'm just saying, we have to
understand where you're
we have
coming
to
from.
put our real world common sense when we're dealing with taxpayer
I
dollars.
don't have,
In
I
a
don't
real
have,
world, we wouldn't spend $20,000 to put a TV in front of us and help us reach something.
I don't have control over the building. I cannot control that the electricity is not where it should be. I have complained. I have talked to certain people about it. I have told them things are not right and I keep getting told everything's fine.
I'm not taking that away from you,
So,
but what
what
the
I'm
answer
trying to
isn't
do-
always a complete remodel. It's a,
I
we can
understand.
work around it.
But the thing about the TVs has nothing to do with electricity out there. Moving these TVs have to do with the fact that the jurors can't see what they need to see. That's what I need to do for the jurors. The other stuff is beside the fact that I've got to get these electricity issues fixed because that's a whole separate issue. The
I-
monitors being moved is because jurors have to be able to see what they need to see the evidence that is presented.
Stated that, and I fully understand
So,
that. That's why I said
bringing
put it
in
right
a
in front of
TV
them.
on wheels does not fix that.
How doesn't it?
Because if I have
TV right here
two
in front of me,
jury
I can see it
trials,
better than I can that one. It's never on.
because if I have two jury trials going, which happens a lot, I have one TV.
We'll give them two. Take one of the hell. We don't use these. I'm sure Jessica would be willing to let you take them.
That's the commissioners, not us,
I
right?
mean, we don't use them. There's an answer there, and it's not always $12,000. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, I'm just one person.
I
I'm
know
just
you are.
expressing concern. I know that people struggle to pay their tax bills, and when they do that and they see that we're spending 12 grand to move a TV closer, some people, they find that a little ridiculous.
Okay.
So
I
that's all I
understand where
wanted
you're
to
coming
say.
from.
Thank you.
I have two questions. We all, no, there's substantial design flaws in that building.
Yes.
Electronics aside, I had the privilege of sitting on a jury in a criminal case. I couldn't see the defendant because there was a post.
Yep.
In the way, but you did go to the commissioners and ask if they could fund any part of this.
They said they didn't
indicated
have it in their
couldn't.
budget to do it.
Long term, there needs to be a plan to fix that building because it's
Right.
not working properly.
And like I said, I do have a plan. I'm putting together, have asked BIS for a copy of all the failed units that we've had in the past year. And so that I could take that to commissioners and say, look, like, there's obviously something going on. This is brand new equipment. This shouldn't fail the way it's been failing, but I have to collect all that data to present to the commissioners.
But we need a comprehensive approach to this. I appreciate that.
I've got a couple comments if I could. One, in my opinion, this is a commissioner issue. It should not be brought before the county council. If they don't have money, they need to find the money. This is their building and they've got problems and they need to resolve their problems. I mentioned to you, I think before, when I was on jury, not duty, I was in the pre-selection stage and could not hear.
We had that fixed.
Thank you.
It was the dampers in the courtroom, where the air comes in from the HVAC unit. They had the but they just had to close the dampers. But we took care of that. You're welcome.
right, do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
No,
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
You.
Sheriff, 129. D, 110 sergeant, negative 41,851.36. E, 110 sergeant, positive 41,851.36. C, 123 corporal, negative 37,515.77. D, 123 corporal, positive 37,515.77. D, 113 corporal, 114 corporal, negative 37,385.02. E, 114 corporal, positive 37,385.02. E, 143 deputy, negative 37,989.79. F, 143 deputy, positive 37,989.79. C, 138 deputy, negative 34,916.72. D, 138 deputy, positive 34,916.72. A, 142 deputy, negative 35,374.45. B, 142 deputy, positive 35,374.45. D, 121 sergeant, negative 39,880.14. E, 121 sergeant, positive 39,880.14. D, 118 corporal, negative 49,246.52. E, 118 corporal, positive 49,246.52. Total transfer 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Per Matt's notes, these were all promotional, switches, so essentially backfilling. Do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes,
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, you're still there.
I'm still here. Sorry, you didn't get rid of me that easy.
Jail, 145. E, 152 corporal, negative 27,682.58. F, 152 corporal, positive 27,682.58. H, 134 correctional officer, negative 28,489.54. I, 134 correctional officer, positive 28,489.54. G, 111 correctional officer, negative 25,772. H, 111 correctional officer, 25,772. Total transfer 0.
make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. We've got some backfilling and you want to explain what happened to the merit, where the merit deputy, what, I guess, who moved over to a merit deputy? Am I
Yeah,
wrong?
one of the corporal positions, he is actually being hired as a merit deputy to fill one of the openings we have there. So that obviously opened something up. And then when we promoted, that opened up a correctional officer's position. I will say that the jail is doing very well in putting people in part-time, getting them trained, getting them through the training. So when positions open, we have people to move into them right away and we're not putting all the extra overtime out. So that's helping.
Thank you.
Was there another position, H-114 to I-114?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
There was one that was added at
Finance.
Finance, yes.
Is it part of this?
It's in the agenda.
It's on the addendum, she
I
says.
didn't, thank you.
Do you have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Cantz. Mr. Mokel?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Ms. Piper?
Yes. Now, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be back.
All right, we'll be here.
Communications, 124. D, 120, Comtech, negative 29,440.56. E, 120, Comtech, positive 29,440.56. E, 124, Comtech, negative 11,000. 195, holiday pay, positive 5,000. 196, overtime, positive 6,000. Total transfer 0.
I make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Just moving money to try to cover your overtime. And you'll probably have to come back, right?
I will.
This overtime for the month, or is this a cumulative?
So at the last council meeting, I told you that I'm gonna come back to you later this year for extra money because of the amount of money that we spent in overtime, just cumulative and what we'll spend in the rest of the year. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to take money out of a line that wasn't filled immediately and move some of that to lessen the blow later on.
What is causing the overtime?
It's a multitude of things. It was the tornado, it was the eclipse, it just staffing and people taking time off. I mean, I think I said at budget time, the 80,000 that was put in there was not gonna be close when we're spending 110 to 120,000 a year. So,
The way your department's set up, the high training and everything, it's not really feasible to have some part-time people to offset that overtime, is it?
no, we have one part-time person and that's it, and he works when he can, but
How far do you think this will take you?
this is just to add to the line. My guess is we'll end up spending 110 to 120,000 dollars again this year, and we were budgeted for 80, so that's why I said later this year, you'll see me for an additional appropriation, more than likely, if I can't find it in my budget. When I first came here, we had so many open positions, it was easy to find money to move into overtime. We don't have that. I'm making an offer today on the final open position that I have, so, we're gonna be full, so that money's not gonna be available to be moved, so.
Fred, help me understand, where does your overtime come from? What are people doing for overtime? I guess my question is, if you have an emergency, and if you've got 10 people on staff, whatever that number is, 12, it doesn't matter if there's an emergency or not, you've got 12 people on staff. Where does the overtime come in?
So we have minimum staffing requirements. You're actually gonna get a report within the next couple months. It's an update to a staffing study that was done prior to me coming here in 21. It basically at that time said we needed 6 more full-time people. It's probably going to increase because our call volume increased. So when that staffing study comes out, I will forward it to all of you to read. We have minimum staffing requirements, and I'm not gonna throw any other department under the bus, but if another department like the treasurer's office or the auditor's office or whoever it is, if somebody calls out sick or takes a vacation day, they don't backfill that person. Because of our minimum staffing requirements, if people take time off or call out sick, we have to backfill that. We don't have a choice, right? So, and with the volume of time that some of the senior people get, or even non-senior people, they take time off. That's what they do. We have to backfill that. It's no different than minimum staffing requirements for other public safety agencies. There's always gonna be overtime, and one of the ways to alleviate some of that overtime is to hire additional full-time staff to meet that requirement, which is, just based on our call volume in 2021, when the study was done, we needed 6 more full-time people. That's gonna increase with this latest study, I have no doubt. So you'll see me at budget time advocating for more people. We have to fill the seats when they are empty. We don't have a choice. It's not like some other departments. There has to be people who answer 911s and dispatch people. So if 2 people call out sick on a shift, and we have to backfill those 2 people. That's just how it works.
And Fred, you're on a 24-hour rotation, right?
So the only way to do it is to
Pay overtime.
pick numbers out of the air here.
But if you need 10 people, put 12 in, if 2 are gone, you got the extra 2, and that's not
Basically.
exactly feasible either.
And we're operating, you know, prior to me arriving, the minimum staffing was 6 per shift, okay? Right before I got here, because of staffing crunches, the interim director made it 5. What we've done is, ideally, we should have at least 6 people there. So we post a 6th position the majority of the time because of call volume. Most of the time that gets picked up, but that's all overtime. And if somebody calls out sick, we have to fill that person as well. I mean, you look at our schedule, there's people off every single day. It's the nature of the business and time off.
Thanks for the explanation. Thank you. Another question I have then, I guess we'll get into this down the road, but feasibility wise, does it make more sense to pay overtime, or does it make more sense to hire another person? Because you're still one more person, you're probably still gonna have overtime.
Well, that's more of a philosophical debate. You know, if we hired according to what I think the staffing study is gonna, even if we took the old staffing study and hired the 6 people, your overtime costs theoretically are gonna go down, theoretically. However, with people taking time off and taking vacation and everything else, with a minimum staffing requirement, you're still gonna have some amount of overtime. You know, probably not $120,000 a year, but you're still gonna have some. You know, when I first came here, they had budgeted, and Jessica remembers this, they budgeted $35,000 for overtime for the whole year. And I came back in March or April and said, I need more money. And the theory with that council was, we'll budget 35,000 and ask you to come back and ask for more money. And so the first year that I did the budget, I put in for more money and it ended up getting cut. And I warned them that you should budget realistically and not budget and have to ask to come back and ask for money in a few months, right? So we got closer for this year at $80,000. Next year, when you see my budget, it'll probably be $100,000, right? Because I'm trying to incrementally bring that up so that I don't have to come back and ask for money, right? Because that's in every part of municipal governing that I've ever done and budgeting, that's not how you do a budget. You do a budget based on what you need and not have to do a budget where you have to come back and beg for money in the 4th month of a year.
Sounds like the more employees you have, the more overtime you'll have.
Like I said, that's theoretical. If we have more staff to draw from and we have more people working every shift, you can afford to lose 1 or 2 and still keep your minimum staffing requirement. If you're operating on minimum staffing requirements now and somebody calls out sick, you have no choice but to do it.
Who sets the minimum staffing?
Ultimately, that's me, based on the call volume. So we don't ever go below 5 people. The preference is to have 6 there. You know, obviously for the eclipse, and, you know, we had extra staffing, just like everybody else did, which cost a lot of money, right? And when the tornado happened, a bunch of people came in because of the call volume without ever being called. And that shows the dedication of the staff that are there. They didn't have to be called, they just showed up because they knew what was gonna happen in that center. Obviously, that has a cost associated with it. So,
Do we have any additional questions for Fred? Hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Ms. Webb.
Yes.
Ms. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
Assessor 134. B 106, personal associate, negative 20,511.68. C 106, personal associate, positive 20,511.68. Total transfer 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
By Ryan, second by Dan. This is a backfilling situation. Do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Ms. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to other. Lit sheriff 1170, 129. B 101 deputy, negative 34,916.72. C 101 deputy, positive 34,916.72, total transfer 0.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. We have a promotion here. Do you have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Jail, 1170, 145. H, 112, correctional officer, negative 27,142.94. I, 112, correctional officer, positive 27,142.94. Total transfer 0.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. More backfilling. Do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Onto addendums in county general, courts, 138. D, 138, assistant court reporter, negative 20,518. D, 138, assistant court reporter, positive 20,518. Total transfer 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is more backfilling. Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jail, 145. H, 114, negative 25,295.39. I, 114, positive 25,295.39. Total transfer 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is that backfilling. Do you have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Mhm.
Thank you. You okay, Ryan?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That what got me.
All right.
Moving on to other, highway, 1176. D, 131, truck driver, negative 28,296.38. E, 131, truck driver, positive 28,296.38. Total transfer 0.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. We've got more backfilling. Do we have any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Under appropriations.
Starting in county general, auditor, 126. 310, contractual services, positive $7,000 for a total of $7,000.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Ed, would you like to explain this particular expenditure?
Sure. In our financial system, we use it typically as a check register right now. So what we're asking this money to do is to have the software configured so we can utilize some features that were originally purchased but never configured to utilize tracking all the assets, capital assets. So we have hundreds of millions of dollars of assets in the county, and they're actually tracked in spreadsheets through different departments of the county. So at no point in time, you can actually pull up and look at assets we have in our county. So that's one part of it. The other part is the encumbrance. The State Board of Accounts, we had meetings with them discussing this. They strongly recommend we utilize that feature because it's not configured to enter encumbrances the way it's currently being entered. So they strongly suggest, because that feature's available, that we utilize it. It was purchased originally, but it's not configured to do that. So that's what this money will be used for.
Anyone have any questions for the auditor?
I think you said that essentially these functions that the program can handle are now being done almost manually.
Yes. That took us, last year, we were trying to track down some vehicles that were purchased, and we couldn't find the lease agreements, the contracts, the VIN, the titles. And it took us, over a month to track those down
Let's go back to each department
and try to find who bought them and the company, the lending company, et cetera, to get that information, because that's part of the auditing process we go through.
thank you.
When I, first had read Councilmember Cance's notes regarding this expenditure, I guess my immediate reaction, my first instinct was, we've been doing this long without it and doing a good job, and is this something that could be put in the budget? But after looking a little bit closer, especially with what Mr. Carroll said, that we'd actually already purchased the stuff before, just didn't utilize it. I don't think it would, I really don't see any way we could argue against a better tracking of our assets and finances, so, sounds like a good purchase to get it up to speed where it should be.
I think you said this is a one-time, this is not an annual cost.
Correct. Yeah, the software was purchased originally, and it's, we have an annual fee for the total package. So this is part of what they're paying for already.
Time expenditure.
Correct.
Who handles, that program then? I mean, who does track it? What person in your office tracks it?
Tracks what?
The assets?
Assets?
Yes.
Um,
Once you get the program, then who monitors it?
well, it would,
Monitor it?
it would be in the financial system. There's nothing to monitor. It'd be, it's no different than payroll or any other entries we make in the system. So it'd be in the centralized financial system.
I have a question, Carol. By going digital like this, is there a way for the public to view the county assets, or I know obviously on spreadsheet, the public can't view it, or is that in-house only?
The county assets are currently up on Gateway already.
Okay, so it's already away. Thank you.
So this will
make it-
make it up, so Gateway's up to date
Well,
More or
what,
less.
what this is gonna allow us to do this,
and do it sooner and
when the
faster?
first payment's required to make, we're gonna have all of the documents, supporting documents for that purchase.
Okay,
Rather than waiting a year later to try to track it down, because we have to, save all those documents and provide them during their audits. So it's gonna save time from our staff to track all these things down and try to read the history to find out where they came from, how they were originated, so. This allows us to scan all these things, then attach it to the original purchase, so we just pull up, email it or print it out and provide for audits.
Help speed up your audit process since you have so many. Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Flanagan.
yes,
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes,
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right,
On to other. Delco Fair and Expo, 4911. 361, repairs and maintenance, $3,000. 442, equipment, $2,000, for a total of $5,000.
I'll make the motion to approve.
second,
motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is for some defibrillators that were purchased or going to be purchased from the Ball Brothers grant that you received. Is there anything else I'm missing? The batteries for some
Oh,
additional.
the batteries and
yeah.
maintenance on the current ones.
Do you have any additional questions for Donna? Hearing none, roll call please.
Ms. Flanagan.
yes,
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes,
Mr. Wyatt.
yes,
Mr. Piper.
Yes. All right,
Misdemeanor Fund, 1175. 310, contractual services, $50,000, for a total of $50,000.
I'll make the motion to approve.
second,
motion by Ryan, second by Dan. You want to explain this one to us a little bit?
Yeah, this is money that's paid in to the state for us to use there at the jail. This is gonna be used to pay medical inmate costs, medicines, basically. And I will tell you, just got February's bill and it was just shy of $19,000 already. So, not getting any cheaper.
Well, I want to say thank you for taking, and the sheriff for taking the money out of, your fund. I don't know if a lot of people know that misdemeanor fund is a fund for y'all, for the sheriff's discretion, how to spend on jail-related issues. So for you guys to take $50,000 of basically your own money and help us subsidize the inmate care, I appreciate that. Last time I seen an expense out of that account, it was to pay to pay retention bonuses to employees. So glad to see it actually going to jail-related things, and appreciate you working with us on that.
Yes, the question is, we are spending that fund down somewhat this year. We will not take in as much as we're spending out of it this year. As far as we know.
As far as
That's
we know.
determined by the state.
Yeah.
And what's the balance is 188,000. Do you know how much goes in each year?
I do not.
Any additional questions?
Right there, Ted.
Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, someone like to read the motion?
Motion to approve financial transfers and amend salary ordinance with like reductions.
Second.
Motion by Eugene, second by Dan, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. We have two before us today. The first is the salary ordinance. It's to repeal and replace. To give a little backstory on this, as many of you who've been attending our meetings or watching online for a while, or just generally engaged in what goes on up here, whenever we backfill an employee for the past over 2 decades now, we've had like this ABCD program. Where this started from is there in the past was an issue with department heads and elected officials overspending in a particular line item. So let's say an employee leaves and after they're paid out, whatever money was left in the line, they were hiring someone before that person was paid out, which caused us to have that line go in the red. And so we had a lot of, I wasn't even on the council, obviously, at that point. So, but there were a lot of requests of council to appropriate additional funding to make up for those losses. It became such an issue that the council, I believe it was 2007, from what Ben could find, and the auditor sent to us that the ordinance for the salary ordinance, excuse me, was updated to include a program where when an employee leaves, let's say like line item 101, when the new person hires in, it's a brand new line of 101A. When that person leaves, then it becomes 101B. And for anyone who's been through our budget process, sometimes there'll be, in some of the departments where there's a lot of changeover, you'll go from like a 101A, and by the end of like that same budget, it'll be down to like F. So it's hard to kind of track. And I think that it was a really good program that was in place to help prevent any of that overspending in a line item. But I know it's been brought to the finance committee's attention for a while now to eliminate that, because there's some, the other issue with this is, let's say, you have an employee who leaves like right after our council meeting, you can't backfill it until we have our next council meeting for an additional month, which is sometimes why they have that extra money. It's because they've had to wait a month to get to us. There's also been instances where we've had to have special meetings just to backfill some of these key positions, especially during tax sale or tax season, like some of these roles. And the same thing has happened when unfortunately we've had employees pass suddenly and having to make some of these quick changes and adjustments. So we've been trying to figure out a way to make the process simpler. It's a lot of paperwork for people. I know Fred with 911 was very passionate in spearheading this, and he was very quickly, we got a lot of department heads and elected officials on board with petitioning us to get something like this updated. My concern is just making sure that we stay in the black and that these line items don't go in the red. My other concern is one of the other reasons that the previous council put this in place was the opportunity to say no and not backfill if we are in a position where we need to have lines removed through attrition for budgeting purposes. So what we have before us today is an update to our current, salary ordinance. And if you look at section 7, we get down into, looks like D is where it starts, the changes start. So in working with, the finance committee and some of the department heads, what I was comfortable with was making sure we had a document in place, some kind of form. And at the time that this was originally written up, that I had been write this up, we had a different form, but I do have another form I want to, that's in your packet, I'll want to discuss. But in here, you'll see basically, there would be a form that you would, these department heads would fill out. It would have all the employees' information, how much money was in that line item at the time that they left that position. And then subtracting any overtime or any other payouts. So like PTO, or if they had longevity, or any of these other things that they may have that they have accrued that they are due to them. To subtract all of that, find out what the remaining line item is, and then calculating when that next hire date is. At that point, the department head would sign off on it. HR director would sign off on it, agreeing that those numbers align. And the auditor's office would then sign off on it and agree that all those numbers align. There is a clause just reminding that if a department head allows that line to go in the red for any reason, that they would be responsible for finding that money in their budget to cover that. We've had some instances where there've been additional monies, maybe they get paid out of another fund or whatever, those would still need to come before council. This is simply the backfilling of a specific line to speed up not only the process for the department heads, because there's a lot of paperwork, from what I understand, a lot of paperwork they have to fill out, a lot of deadlines they have to meet. But this also gives us the assurance of knowing that the due diligence was done to ensure those lines stay in the black. And then at each monthly council meeting, instead of going through and reading all those backfillings, I know Ryan, a couple months ago, you're like, can't we just read these all in together?
Half the day doing
I
it.
know, exactly. So this would eliminate all of that, but we would be provided with a summary report that allows us to follow and document in our budget books when there have been some changes, just to make sure we keep up to date on what's going on and that our eyes are still on it. And then at any time, if we need to acquire some positions through attrition, we can do a hiring freeze if necessary. The last time we did a hiring freeze, Ryan, you may remember this was in 2020, but it was exempt for public safety and maintenance to keep the public safe and the buildings functional. So we could always do something like that moving forward. This will just help streamline a process, ensure that we keep our line items in the black. And so this is what I brought before you today for us to discuss. This is a first reading. Now, also in your packet, you received today a copy of an updated PI form, which is the current form that our HR department uses for any changes in hiring. And the approval process was added to this, that I was discussing about the department heads, HR director, and the I don't know why employees on here, but auditor's office, and then just the date that it would be submitted to council. So it would show that the date of our next monthly meeting, we would not get copies of this because there is some personal information included on this PI form, but we would get a summary, which I believe is what this sheet is, to give us an example of what the summary would look like that we'd be presented with. I will say, I don't know that I want names on here because we try not to, if it could just be the line item and not the name. We try not to personalize any of our employees, unfortunately. Like our job is to look at just the numbers, right? So when we see names, we start to get some emotions tied to that. So do we have any questions about this?
Couple thoughts.
Yep.
In the ordinance, I think it ought to be made clear if there's any change in the job title or any change in the job description, that still has to come for the council. So this is only for an employee moving into the exact same position with the exact same job title and description. I'm glad to see the provision in here about, making sure that this doesn't change the appropriation. And what we're essentially doing is a line item now is specific to an individual. We're making those line items specific to the position, not to the individual, which I think is appropriate. I look back at section 3 of the ordinance, and I think that needs to be changed because that seems to describe the way we're doing it now. It talks about establishing a new line item for a new employee. So that's what we're trying to get away from, I believe.
Yeah.
As far as, I think there does need to be a report to the council on a monthly basis. Yeah, I agree, it shouldn't, we're not interested in, not appropriate to have names, but we just want to know what the line item in what part of the budget, where there has been a change in that, in personnel. And maybe the effective date of that change, but, I don't think the council has to approve that report, but maybe just receive it on a monthly basis. Those were my thoughts.
I don't recall having a statement that we'd have to actually approve them. I think it just says in, section 7G, the auditor shall submit a report to the council at each of its regular meetings detailing all vacancies filled pursuant to this section, and a copy of the report shall be included in the council's minutes.
Well, I guess I think of having some mechanism to show we received it
Okay.
would also give council members the opportunity to raise questions, rather than just be handed a piece of paper.
I agree. I have, something to add as well. I don't know if we could put this in here, but traditionally what we've had in the past, this doesn't happen as much with some of our less seasoned employees, but when we have someone with 15, 18, 20 years experience, either retires or leaves, they've accrued so much back time. I believe the auditor's office had an employee leave like a month or two ago, and I think they're just getting ready to get paid out the beginning of May, if I'm off the top of my head. So you're like 2-3 months where that office can't hire someone to take that position. In fact, in last month's council meeting, we appropriated a couple $1,000s for that individual for taking on those responsibilities. So what I would propose is that when an employee with time buildup leaves, that we pay them out right then and there, lump sum, they're done, they're gone, they're no longer employee. Now, the objection to that in the past has been, but if we do that, when they hire the new employee, those salaries are overlapping, right? And there's not enough money in the budget. But generally, an employee, most of the time, I've been there that long, utilizes insurance, and insurance is about the equivalent by the time you factor in insurance and perf, it's almost the equivalent of the salary. So if some employees say 40,000, it's about 40,000 in perf and insurance. So if we lump sum pay out them that day and they're no longer employed, we will save that money in perf and insurance that we won't be paying them out over the next 3 months. We can then utilize that money to hire the new employee that takes their place.
That would require a transfer, because the perf and the insurances are in separate line items from the employee's salary.
It would require a transfer.
Yes, there can be overlaps if there need to be, but that can't go through this process. If there's going to be an overlap, it would have to come back to us as a transfer.
How would we institute something like that? Okay, I get, we're off topic of this particular thing. How would we institute that?
But the other thing to consider too is there are some retired employees that get retirement insurance, like they get their health insurance through retirement, so it's not like it ends.
That's a good point. But it would have to be specific, only certain qualifying factors.
Yeah, and this is strictly just a salary ordinance where we're talking about just the 100 level job description, so that doesn't, and I don't know on the FICA and perf side, to Bill's point, that would require them to come before us. And looking back at my notes here, I feel like I probably need a motion and second on this. Because we've been discussing it, so I apologize.
I'll make the motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Ryan and Dan, Ryan motion, second Dan. So my other concern now, because we had worked on it. Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to have the vote also, don't we?
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes for introduction.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Ms. Piper.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just so excited about this. We've been working on this for such a long time.
Mr. Hughes,
Um,
to your section 3, please explain that to me again. Section 3, which is not being amended at this time, although I think it needs to be amended, says that full-time employees can only be paid from a line item specific to that employee and only that employee. Well, that's what we're trying to get away from. Okay. And it says that a new line item must be established for a new employee and approved by the council. We're trying to get away from that. So that section needs to be amended to go along with the changes in section 7. Do you have suggestions?
So we
Well,
strike the whole
my
section.
suggestion would be, I'd like to take the next month to look at this, because I may have some other, by other points that I may offer some other amendments. So that way, if that's the pleasure of the council, I'd like to use the next month to kind of explore this and clarify some of these points.
yeah, I'm good with that.
it in for introduction right now. Introduction now, it won't be up for passage until the May meeting.
So any other questions you have, we have some time to look over it, but this gives us a good starting point.
I have a quick question. for
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yep.
What kind of feedback have you received from the department heads regarding this?
Department heads, clap if you're in favor. All right, clap if you're not in favor. Is that your answer?
Clear enough.
All right. I'm surprised I didn't get like some woos along with
Oh.
that, because this has been, something of passionate conversation in finance committee meetings for a little while, and, like I said, Fred really spearheaded this one and got the ball moving and petitioned everyone else to get on board, so, do we have any other questions on the other question I have, if we choose to continue, or excuse me, choose to use the form that was provided in our packets, make sure you take a look at that to see if there's anything else that we're missing, excuse me, possibly, my other question is, with this being like an updated PI form, who's in charge of owning it? Because originally with the backfilling form, that would have been a council document. So I just want to make sure that if like HR directors change or something, like what's the process of, like, I want to make sure we don't lose any of this information moving forward.
Want the information be downloaded. I don't know.
The HR should probably have this with the personal information.
Right, so I just, because, part of this is that you actually get sign off. People are printing their name and signing off. And so like, let's say we were to have a new HR director and they change the PI form. That then changes the document we're using to validate these transfers. So I just want to make sure it's clear on who owns the document and who's responsible for making changes to it and getting any kind of approval. That's my only concern with this other.
Is it plausible for us to put a note in there that the change documents have to come before us, even that's a little bit of micromanagement?
Probably.
That's something kind of like what Bill said.
Different
than, because I only
it's
heard them
different.
back after what you said.
If we get a new HR director and they change the form, who's responsible? Who
Okay.
has the document?
Right, because we're using this to validate our decisions, right? Like, and
Right.
make, so like, I want to make
But it's got
sure
a bunch of personal information, so
we can't see that part.
I got you.
we shouldn't.
That's why we're getting a summary, but I just want to make sure that we always have someone doing this kind of sign off.
Can we look into whether we have the proper authority to control that? While we're looking it over this month?
Yeah,
Control who holds the form?
who's in, yeah, who's in,
Who gets to dictate what the form looks like, and if it changes?
because originally we had, HR had their PI form and then we created
A second.
a second form. And the second form basically had all the same information as their form, so it was just a duplication of documentation, which we're trying to make things easier for the department heads and elected officials, while still collecting all the information for us to feel confident that these, line items are staying in the black. So that's my only concern with this, but if we can get some kind of documentation in here that any changes to this
least-
document have to come before us,
Yep.
then,
If nothing else, we have to be notified of changes if we
Sure,
can't control it.
Sure,
One of these-
because we can create a second document and then amend
Much
this
as
if
we
we need,
need.
yeah.
much
Yep,
as we're trying to
I
do.
just want to make sure there's something in there that states that, because at the time that Ben and I were working on this, we were still using the backfilling form, and then the auditor's office worked to combine what we were looking for and what HR was documenting into one file, and I got that yesterday afternoon, so I just want to make note of that. Do you have any other questions or comments on this?
Do we have to vote on a motion to introduce, or did we do
We
that?
did that.
Okay.
We introduced it, yeah. Midway through discussion. Okay. All right, so we're all good on this one?
Yep.
Yes, all right, moving on, we've got our second one for our first reading is ordinance 2024-009. It's a mobile home permit fee ordinance. This was brought to us by the treasurer's office. So Brad, I'll let you, I know we all got a letter about this too, but I'll let you explain
Yes.
what your request is.
Go ahead and introduce it now.
Oh, good call.
So moved. Second.
So move to introduce by Eugene, second by Dan. Thank you, Ben. Okay, now you can share.
Okay, so I sent you a letter that,
Roll call vote.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness.
sorry.
Approve the motion.
Roll call, please.
Flanagan.
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Mokel.
Yes.
Webb.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Cantz. Piper.
Yes. I'm clearly just very excited about these ordinances today. Now you may speak.
Are we
Brad.
good? Okay.
Thank you.
Excuse my voice, it's kind of raspy a little bit. So what we have before you. I'll let you talk. Sorry.
Kathy, you're up.
So we've provided an ordinance to start collecting on mobile home permits. Many of the other counties do, we're the very few that don't. These become very repetitive. We have a huge base of mobile home community here. In particular, they will provide one day and the people back out of the sale. The very next day, they're back again, changing it. So it's taking our time, our paper, it's becoming a cost. So Brad has written an ordinance and provided it. Ben had approved it, correct?
Yeah, well, then, yeah.
Looked at it. And so we're bringing it to you for introduction.
And what specifically is the process? So if I've sold a mobile home, my buyer comes in with a bill of sale or
So an individual comes in, they have to have the title.
title.
We check the taxes. Taxes have to be paid for the year in order for them to do a title transfer. We fill out all the paperwork. We scan it all in to go to the assessor's office. The assessor's office then updates the information, goes to the auditor's office so that all of our taxing information stays correct. Then they take their title and their transfer. They go to the BMV and they do a title transfer there.
So from a county point of view, you have at least 3 employees that are touching that paperwork. Auditor,
Yep.
assessor, and treasurer. Is this fee controlled by the state? Cause it seems like there's a lot there for $15.
How do you mean I controlled by the state?
Is there, did you just pick this number out? of
No,
the air?
that's, most counties only charge between 10 and 15. I don't know that it's capped or not. But that's just what everybody is basically. 15 is kind of what a lot of the other treasurers, have figured out what their cost is and how long it takes, those kind of things.
That's the reason I was asking, because it
Yeah.
seems like you guys are doing a lot of work for $15.
Yeah,
Mhm.
especially when,
That's my point.
they're back and forth. So I think that will cure some of this. It will reduce that back and forth all the time, doing it one day, coming back in the next day. And then, I mean, we might have one that comes to us 5 or 6 times a year, maybe even more than that. And so I think that'll cut down on that. Last year we did 412, and I think with this, we would probably be in the probably 200, 300 range. I think it's gonna cut down, which will help us, but also, and part of this will be, or the fee would go receipted into the county general fund. And in that letter, it listed the fund number. And then the tracking is gonna be solely on our office, similar to how we do, the excise tax collection. And then so we'll be taking on that responsibility as well, but it still will lessen, I think it'll lessen the workload because I think it'll drop the number of a owner coming in 2 or 3 times to do the same trailer
In a week.
in a week. Yeah,
Question,
yes.
do they go pay fees at the DMV?
If they pay, so on, just like a vehicle, if you, sales tax, if that line's on there, they pay sales tax on that, but from what I understand, there's no other fee. And in fact, when they come in, they're surprised that we don't charge a fee. Like I said, we're one of the few counties that don't.
I figured there'd be a title transfer fee too.
And there might be I think
A
there is,
small
I
one.
think there is a title transfer that the BMV charges, obviously.
Not that
they-
we get, but
Oh,
No,
they
no.
keep all that.
Yes.
Know that, we're not gonna get any of
My
that.
concern with something like this, a lot of people don't realize, you said it, it's title. People buy a mobile home, it's not, you don't get a deed like you do when you get your house, you get a title. And things with titles depreciate, they don't appreciate, right? So there's already that factor. My concern is introducing what's essentially a tax. I know it's called a permit fee, but it's basically a tax for the trailer homeowners. They're already there are gonna be property taxes on it. They're gonna pay a sales tax at the BMV. Most people, I'm not saying all, but most people who are choosing to purchase a mobile home are already at the lower end of, medium household income, if you would, on the lower scale of how much they're earning. I'm reluctant to add another tax on top of the people who are struggling the most.
One thing you have to keep in mind is mobile home parks are owned by corporations now. How many did we have just last week? 29 came in from one mobile home park. These are corporate people that make millions of dollars. It's not, very few of them are the individual person.
Correct.
It's gonna be
It's
your
the big
corporate, it's the
corporation.
big corporation.
So who are you charging? The person who buys the trailer or the
Whoever
mobile home park?
does the transfer fee.
But
it's-
your majority is
but
your
the majority-
corporation.
Yeah, the majority is, the mobile home park that comes in, they give us 29 to do, and they expect them done the next day.
the whole mobile home park is sold and they bring them all in and say, there you go.
And
good luck."
that's, if you look at most mobile home parks in Delaware County, they're owned by corporations.
Very few of them are the individuals,
I'll have to take
Does the auditor also require, or recorder, excuse me, apologize, require, don't they have a recording fee also? For houses,
Yes, for houses, they do,
and this,
yeah,
and they don't, but they don't for,
and, yeah, it's quite a bit more than this. More than triple, actually.
With respect to Ryan's comment and Dan's comment as well, I understand that a lot of the other counties might possibly be charging this $10 or $15 fee. I'm curious, not that you would know, and I don't know that it makes any difference on my next comment, how old and how long they've been charging $10 or $15. This is, calendar year 2024. I do not think $10 to $15 is anywhere near
I know.
enough money to charge. If there's room to charge more, and I'm thinking closer to $25, it's handled multiple times. It's a service that's provided free gratis currently.
Yeah.
May I clarify something? Ryan, you made the statement that people in trailers pay property taxes. They do not. They do not pay real property taxes. They're supposed to pay personal property taxes. However, when they're owned by a trailer park, what we have found is if they're in inventory, the assessor can take those taxes and eliminate those as long as they're not being rented. And it's very hard to monitor if they're being rented or not. So if you actually look at the amount of inventory that's out there, it's not being, collected in taxes because of that. I think you find a lot of tax revenue that's there, should be paid.
Could you clarify, is that all trailers or just trailer parks? Cause I know there's people have individual lots with trailers on them.
And I believe in Delaware County, you're required to have at least 5 acres to put a trailer or any home on the property.
Oh, hell, there's a couple in Shedtown.
Well, I'm talking about today's requirements.
Okay.
And then grandfathered, yeah.
The property itself, the real estate pays property tax, but the trailer itself does not.
To answer your question, I know Monroe, County, they were one of the first ones, and it was in the, like, at least 15 years ago, 10 to 15 years. Several have done, past permit fees in the last 5 years because we were getting bombarded because Indiana is ripe for these corporations. They're not even from Indiana. Most of them are from Michigan,
California.
California, but Indiana is ripe for the picking, basically. That's what they look at. And so they come in, there's some that they're buying, there's some parks that have 100 trailers. And so, it's one of those, it's a big business. We're not out to get the big business guy. We're just out to try to alleviate the several times, doing transfers with, they sell it and then they backed out. So we need to put it back in our name. Oh, now we got a new buyer the next week. And so it's just back and forth all the time. So
My
that will
concern, though,
hopefully eliminate some of that.
my concern is generally when with the way government tends to work, we have a well-intentioned plan. Like, to your credit, you said this is corporations, out-of-state corporations. I don't think anyone's gonna lose any sleep if a out-of-state corporation has to pay $15 or whatever it may be. My concern is that's somehow not gonna stay in between the lines and it's gonna bleed over to struggling people who are purchasing a home. I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter and her husband just bought a trailer in a trailer park and they bought it. So in that scenario, they would be the ones that would have to pay the permit fee, I'm assuming.
And they're closing.
And they're closing, it's like a closing cost.
So I know
And
that-
most of the, so for example, the ones that are right by Walmart, those go for, it's a high dollar amount and they're gonna pay $15 for a title transfer. And some of those also, they'll send in, last year, we had a company out of California buy middle of tax season, which is fine, those things happen. 56 title transfers in the middle of tax season and then turn around and wanna do it again because they want the LLC at the end of it. That's time, taxpayers are coming in to pay their taxes and I got 56 title transfers right here that I gotta get done. So are you gonna have the taxpayer upset because I got someone working with them when they just changed that name a month ago? It's $15 for a corporation. Do you think they would have come back a month later and said, okay, I'm paying $15 more for each of these to add the LLC to it when I should have originally done that in the first place? I just forgot.
No, you make a good point. I'm sure it's frustrating in your office. It's frustrating for everyone who has to deal with it. I'm just concerned that the people at the low end of the financial totem pole are gonna be the ones affected by this inadvertently. So there's gonna be people who struggle financially, who get stuck having to pay an extra tax or permit fee because the target of a corporation somehow missed them. That's my concern. I totally get your argument.
And this is just a one-time $15
Yes.
fee.
Yes.
I'm not insensitive to, people with low income. I get all that. But at the same time, I think again, to us to provide carte blanche, a free service, nothing's free. So if the people that are using the service don't pay for it, then the taxpayers are in general are paying for it. And again, I'll go back and say, I would be in favor of this, but I also don't think that $15 is enough money to charge.
I'll do some research between now and next month before we get for final approval. To see what, if we're capped by the state, if we are, obviously, you can't
Right,
go more.
I mean,
pay for the gasoline, you pay for the road tax.
What's that?
That's like, to your point, they pay a gasoline tax. You know, and there's the low incomes that are paying more of that tax,
Well-
because they usually have to travel further and more.
Well, you're making a good point, and that's why I said I get frustrating when these services, but that's the business of government. Citizens pay taxes. These are the services they get provided to them. And I get it when we work in the offices, we can get frustrated with that. Taxpayers are taxpayers, and government is the services they provide for. You shouldn't have to continue getting permitted to death and taxed to death for the services that they should already be getting. That's my only concern with it. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that. I mean, I'm all for revenue increases, but not when it could potentially fall on the backs of our most vulnerable financial population.
And Brad, so to Ryan's point, would you be able to pull some kind of report or data to see how many of, in like the past 6 months or year have been individuals versus corporations? Do you have that ability or no? Not easily?
I don't know. I can find out. I can see what.
I have a lot of my emails.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
a lot of emails.
If
that
we just
track
take a
and-
peek, that might just be a good number for us to see what that actually looks like. And then I just wanted some clarification. So the permit fee fund shall be deposited into account. This is in bullet 5. That looks like a county general fund, is that where that's being deposited? Is that correct? Okay.
A couple of questions for Ben, I think. Have you looked at this, and is the council the appropriate body to impose a permit fee?
Based on my research and the way, so I will state that the fee is being imposed as it says in the first whereas paragraph under the general powers, of county government. There isn't an express fee provision in the title transfer or not ordinance, statute, which is listed in the 3rd paragraph. Brad and I looked at multiple other counties, and it does appear that traditionally these have all been imposed by county councils.
Then the other question would be, if this is adopted, because it imposes a fee, does it have to be published before it can go into effect?
Yes, I believe it probably would. Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments, concerns for the treasurer?
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank you.
All right, with that, do we have any updates for any appointments or committee reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. I did have a question from Councilman Mokel. Jim asked me about the kaleidoscope. The reason that abatement is not on our agenda today is it missed the deadline for publishing, so it'll be on our next month's meeting. I don't believe we have any new business, elected officials, department heads. Here comes Fred.
We still like you, Fred.
I
You're all
know,
right.
I try. So I talked to Jessica. I guess I was a little confused. I sent all of you an email. I have to upgrade the recorder and buy a new radio console. I think you guys all got that email. I want to be able to order it, without waiting till May. I missed the appropriation deadline because we didn't get the quote in time. So the total cost, I think, is 63,000 and change between the two of them. I basically just need consensus that nobody has an issue with it. It will come back before you in May as the official appropriation request out of statewide 911. But I'd like to get it ordered now because it's a months-long wait time.
How much you have in that account?
1.6 million, give or take.
No objections from me.
We've done this before with Fred, where we've given a blessing to get some public safety equipment.
Need for a
So-
motion or just?
No, it
approval?
just, I don't know that we can actually vote on it because it wasn't actually published, but,
I think he just wanted to do it in public on the record, so it wasn't
right.
a behind
The
the
issue
scenes
was
thing.
his request was via email, and had you responded and given a consensus via email, that would have been a violation of open door law. So the request was that he come
So I have a
to the
question about
public
that.
meeting and
while you're-
discuss it with you here.
I have a question about that. So does it violate the open door law if they respond to a person individually and not as a group and hit a reply to all?
That's considered a serial meeting and is explicitly
Okay.
prohibited by the.
That was my
Indiana Public
mistake.
Access
I
Council.
My understanding of the right to know law was that you couldn't respond to all because that constituted a meeting, but responding individually did not. So I guess it's a little different here.
Apparently.
No objection from me, Fred.
I mean, we'll have to actually vote on it next month. It'll be on our transfer and appropriation agenda, but
I just
typically
I
we
want to
want
know that I can
someone to-
order it, and not be on the hook for $63,000.
Look forward to seeing you next month. Fred.
Look forward to
that
seeing
sounds
you.
great. We look forward to that. That was good, Eugene.
Tony Skinner, Delaware County Sheriff. I want to appreciate Fred for volunteering to buy us 10 new squad cars out of that $1.6 million too. Thanks, Fred.
Claire.
So in 2018, the sheriff's office and the county council made an agreement for, the sheriff's office, you approved a drop program for retirement. So drop is deferred retirement option plan. That had a 3-year window on it, and that expired and was renewed in 2021. And now it's coming up again in June of this year. That sunset clause is coming up again. So I'm just putting this on your radar that next month I'm going to present for the drop, and I'll get with Ben, whether it's an updated ordinance or however that works. I would really like to remove the sunset clause from this and just make it permanent, but I'll have all that information for you next week, because some of you are probably like, what the heck is drop? But I will promise you I'll do my best to educate you on what that is. Like I said, we've had it for 6 years now, and I think we've only had 3 or maybe 4 people that went through it. So it's not for everybody, but for those that do qualify for it, it's a good benefit, and it doesn't cost the county anything. So just putting that on your radar. I'll be in front of you next month to talk about drop. Thanks.
That program that retains the experienced officers.
Yeah.
Is a real benefit to Delaware County, and even, some recent things that have happened locally is a testament to that. Having experienced officers makes every one of us safer. So
I appreciate
appreciate
you
you bringing it in.
saying that. Thanks.
It's proven to be successful. I think I can speak to the 2018 council wanting to just make sure we had that sunset in there to see how it impacted us. Because if everyone took it, that was going to potentially be an issue. But like you said, it's not for everybody, and it's proven to be a successful program. So thank you. Any other department heads, elected officials out in the crowd? Do we have anyone sign up for public comment? I don't know. No? Okay. Double check, nothing. Okay. Comments from council.
I do. If nobody else has anything, I just want to remind everyone that the election is 2 weeks from today on May 7th. Early voting is going on right now in the county building, I believe from 8 to 4. And I could be wrong, but doesn't it start on Saturday, starting this Saturday? So the next 2 Saturdays as well, if you're someone who works and can't get up here through the workday, you can go and vote on Saturday for the next 2 Saturdays. So voter turnout is something that somewhat a challenge. We typically do pretty good on the presidential election, so I just want to encourage everyone and challenge everyone to beat the previous turnout, and everyone go vote for your preferred candidate and exercise your right as American. That's all I have to say.
Had many people ask me at church on Sunday what the times were and everything, because obviously sometimes people go out of town last minute for work or whatever, and they want to make sure they get to vote. So having those early options is nice. Anything from anyone else?
I'd like to thank Fred for all the effort he put into the revamping this salary ordinance or the rehiring ordinance. I know that was a lot of effort on your part.
All right, and with that, I do have one thing I want to share. So last week, after our finance committee meeting, the finance committee went over to discuss the salary study update, or get an update from Kent Irwin and his team. So they did a really good job of showing us how they went through collecting all the information from the departments and elected officials. So thank you for getting all that information over to them. They went through their rubrics of how they get all the numbers and how they weight the different jobs. And it was a very thorough presentation, and they're getting much closer to having something to present to us. So that's the latest update on that, but it was a very good meeting, and I'm excited to see what they come back with. So with that, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Cantz. Mr. Piper.
Yes, and our next meeting is Tuesday, May 28th at 9 a.m. right back in this room. Thank you.